cast, maybe? Okay, thanks for waving. Can you go play?
Okay, me too.
Okay.
I'm going to fix my kitchen. I'm not playing.
Okay, go fix your kitchen.
Oh well. Just something useful.
Okay, so we see. Hi friends, welcome back to the Midlife Housewife. I am Courtney, a Gen X stay-at-home mom and housewife with too much free time and a load of opinions, and this is a spot where I get to share it all and talk about things pop culture and anything else that pops into my brain. So we are here to discuss the final episodes of Love is Blind on Netflix. It's my new train wreck obsession. I will link my first two videos in the card somewhere on the screen. If you haven't seen those, go ahead and take a look. So we are at the Bachelor and Bachelorette nights for the people on the show. I keep wanting to call them contestants, but they're not contestants. The guys, all the guys in the cast are gathering. They are with relatives and friends having like a guys night out. It looks like maybe it's at like a wine bar type situation. I don't know. And really it's just a night for the guys to kind of kick back, hang out with each other. We see them talking to some of their friends and family members. We get there's like a friend of Damien's there who says, you know, Damien has not ever really been a one girl kind of guy. He's never talked seriously about marrying someone. So it's very different to see him like this with Gigi and really talking about marrying her and discussing a future with her. We see Cameron talking to two of his friends who look very much like scientists and about, you know, how he feels about Lauren and how he is the first man that she's ever introduced to her family and how much he really loves her, and that, you know, it's kind of crazy that they just met and fell in love, and here they are. We see, who else is there? Oh, we see Mark talking to one of his friends. Well, actually it was his roommate and also I guess his best friend. And you know, the roommate's asking him, do you really think love is enough? And I think over the course of the episodes watching Mark and Jessica, it is very clear that he cares about her a great deal. I mean, he's calling it love. Who am I to say that it's not? And I think that's a really important question that his friend is asking, because in the real world, and I say this like to my daughters, well, one of my daughters is married, the other two are single, or to any of my single friends, like love is not really enough to sustain a marriage in the real world. You definitely want to have it as a basis. Definitely need to have a foundation that's built on love. But if I could offer any of my own insights as a person who has been married for almost a decade, there definitely needs to be a lot more than love there. You need companionship, you need friendship, you need a sense of humor, you need that willingness to wake up every morning and recommit yourself to this relationship, even when it's hard, even when you're exhausted, even when you don't like the person that you're married to very much in that moment. So I do think that was a good question for his friend to ask, and you know, Mark's like, only time will tell, that sort of thing. So okay, dude. And then we also see the girls all dressed up for a girls' night out to celebrate their bachelorette night. Jessica is very, very drunk. Amber is very, very drunk. I don't think it's funny, like I have made it no secret that I am not a huge fan of Amber and Barnett. But I don't think that we've ever really seen her drunk on the show. She seems to me, I mean, she seems like a fun kind of party type of girl, but she hasn't really been wasted on the show. But that night at the Bachelorette, both of them are very, very drunk. And they have this little conversation at the bar. Once again, Jessica is embarrassing herself because she just can't, like, she just can't let it go. It's almost as if she cannot stop herself from interfering in whatever relationship Barnett and Amber have established. And basically she's drunk and just goes up to her at the bar and does that whole like drunk girl fake friends, like, oh babe, I just want you to be happy and I got your back and he better not hurt you. Like, okay girl, whatever, go sit down, go have another Chardonnay, Karen. Anyway, and we see Lauren talking to her friends, and there was a funny moment, and I really identified with this because I got married like right out of high school, and so by the time I was in my mid-20s, I was divorced. Shocker, I know. And I can remember when I was single and wanting to meet someone and get married again, and it was right, I met my husband right after I turned 30. Like, I turned 30 in August and I met him like the second week of September. And I can remember like my 30th birthday being like, I'm not a big birthday person in general. Like, they caused me a lot of like angst and like I've done nothing with my life kind of thing because I'm dramatic like that. And I can remember on my 30th birthday being so upset because I didn't have like a partner to share it with. And I can remember thinking like, God, I just want to meet like the right guy. I really want to meet my person. I want to get married. I want to have another baby, like all of these things. And then I met him a few weeks later, and he was nothing like I thought he would be, but everything that I needed him to be, if that makes any sense. So when Lauren says like, oh, I've been praying for a man, like, oh Lord, send him to me, and now that he's here, I'm like, I don't know, like that whole thing, like I totally identified with that and had many moments of freaking out, like while I was dating my husband, thinking this is too good to be true, this man is too good to be true. And my friends being like, but girl, this is exactly what you asked for. And I'm like, I know, but I know. So I thought that was like funny and cute. And we see Gigi at the bar with her friends, and you know, I get a sense of like who she is. I think she's the type of person where like she has made her friends into like her family, and they have like a really strong bond. And so that was fun to see them at the bar. They go to like a drag show, and of course Jessica is like drunk, a drunken mess, and like shouting things out at the drag queen. And you know, the queen is basically like, girl, sit, you need to have several seats. And so now we have arrived at the wedding day for the couples. Dramatic pause. So did you have couples that you thought wouldn't get there? Couples that you definitely thought would go through with it? I honestly thought that all of them would go through with it. So the wedding days surprised me a lot. So let's dig in. So the first up for the first couple up to be married is Damien and Gigi. We see her getting ready. We see her in the dress that she picked out. She looks beautiful. It's very like ethereal and very sort of, I don't know, like forest nymph, whimsical fairy look to it. She looked really, really pretty. Damien looks handsome in his suit. So I do like the setup for the weddings. Like, I was very into the aesthetic of it all. So good job, Netflix, or whoever the production team is for this show. I was a little bit disappointed not to see Nick Lachey and Vanessa at any of the weddings though. Anyway, so we get to Damien and Gigi's big day. He is standing at the altar with the minister and his best man. We see, you know, they have guests. She comes down the aisle and they get there, and, you know, the minister has like a little, or I shouldn't say the minister, the officiant has a little sort of preamble. And then he asks Gigi, like, do you take this man, yada, yada, yada. I'm not exactly sure what the like specific vows are. I'm not sure that they were the traditional ones, but essentially he says, hey, do you want to marry this guy? And she says, yes, I do. And then the officiant goes to Damien and says, you know, do you want to marry this woman? And he says, no. And I was shook. Oh my God, I did not think for a minute that they were not going to get married, even though their relationship was one of the rockier ones. So she is obviously like very upset, and you know, we sort of see what they like leave the ceremony area. It's not like a, you know, it's like they're getting married in like this house on this like estate or property or something. I'm not sure what it was, but you know, she leaves the room where the ceremony is, and we see them talking behind the scenes, and she is very, very hurt, and he actually looked hurt too. And I think that in the end she was a little bit too immature. And while I think that she reminds me of the girl that you are in your 20s when you think that like arguing or fighting equals like passion and excitement in your relationship. I think that she had a little too much of that still, and that scared him, because I think that he is at an age where he wants to settle comfortably into his marriage and not always have to work that hard at making her happy or keeping her interested, or you know, lighting that fire within her. And I think that he cares about her, but feels like she has a little bit more growing up to do before she's ready to get married. So, you know, and here's the thing, like, I think that they might have a chance of still being together, except for the fact that he embarrassed her on like television for all the world to see. And I'm not sure, is that a hump that you can get over? Because she is like very dramatic, and so I'm not sure if that's something that she can work through. But I do think that he cares about her and would definitely still be in it, like if there wasn't like a wedding that they needed to have. So if it was just like they were still dating and maybe even still be engaged, I think that he would not have broken it off. But I don't think he felt like, I felt like he thought he couldn't authentically be in that marriage with the situation the way that it was, if that makes any sense. So then we see, I'm not sure who is up next. Then we see, let's just go with Amber and Barnett. So they're, you know, are the regular sort of nervous energy. They have sort of this like laid back country southern vibe, which was not a shock to their whole like wedding situation. And he is standing up at the altar with his brother, I believe, and we see her come in, and she did look really pretty. I did not like it was a little to, like, I'm a person who thinks like you either need a statement earring or a statement necklace, and of course Amber had them both on because that's just who she is as a person. But other than that, I think that she looked really pretty on her wedding day, and you know, she goes up to the altar and they go ahead with the ceremony and get married. And I once again, I thought that they would get married, and as much as I sort of dislike them like as people, I guess, as much as you dislike anyone that is just like a random person on TV. I do think that they suit each other as a couple, and I think that Barnett has a little bit of a calming effect on Amber. Like in the relationship, like he is the much more like adulty, like grounded, sensible, level-headed person. And I think that she has really been stuck in this character of being like the loud, not like other girls kind of girls, the party girl, the drinker, whatever. And I think sometimes like we can get cast into these roles very early on, and as we get older we outgrow them, but we're still like internally we feel like we're not that person, or we may have outgrown those behaviors, but the situation that we're still in has determined that that's who we are, and so we're afraid to outgrow them. So we sort of cling to things that we should have left behind out of fear of like growing up and like stepping into the next phase of our life. So in that way, I feel like Barnett is a really good fit for Amber, because there's part of me that has an inkling that she wants more out of her life, and that being with him will allow her to grow into a different kind of person. So we get to Kelly and Kenny, and they were kind of like low key through the whole series. Like they seemed like a couple who had really been together for longer than they had. Their parents met and seemed to get along like old friends. And Kelly and Kenny really seemed to be on the same page with how the relationship was progressing, even though we see her at the Bachelorette with two of her friends, and you know, one of her friends is saying how Kelly is not great at picking partners, and that she has really in the past based a lot of her relationships on connecting with someone physically versus establishing an emotional connection first. So this was different for her. We do know that they are the only couple who hadn't slept together yet. And so, you know, and that kind of gave me pause, because like I wouldn't want to marry someone that I haven't slept with, and that's just me, and I guess like my own personal preference or whatever. They did say that they had like done other things or whatever, but you know, I do believe that you can be physically attracted to someone and not have like an emotional connection to them at all, and that is like fine. And I have certainly like been in relationships where that was a dynamic, but I'm also a firm believer in that emotional, like being connected to someone emotionally makes them much more physically attracted to me, just like I, you know, am when I see certain characteristics in guys that I really like, it will make them probably more physically attractive to me. Like you know, I think guys with a sense of humor are very, very attractive. Just, you know, it like having a sense of humor elevates their level of like how physically attracted I am to someone. Guys who are really smart, I kind of dig that too, regardless of like what the outside package looks like. And so I never really understood why she seemed unwilling to sleep with him if there was an emotional connection, because you never know. Like there are, I think that you can be emotionally attached to someone and still have doubts about the physical aspect of your relationship until you put the physical aspect into play. And then I think the emotional connection makes the physical connection that much deeper. And she seemed unwilling to want to go there. So, yeah, we get to the wedding day. She looks lovely. Her father walks her down the aisle. We see her sister there. Both sets of parents are there. There are friends. The officiant asks Kenny if he wants to marry Kelly. And, he says, of course I do. And then the officiant asks Kelly and she says no. And my mouth literally, like my jaw dropped. Because I just, like, I don't want to say that she was settling for Kenny, but they seem so ordinary that, like, and this is such a dramatic thing to do, that I never thought for an instant that she wouldn't go through with it. Does that mean, like, being on the show was dramatic enough for someone who seems just so regular, and then being on the show and basically leaving someone at the altar is like the ultimate in like drama queen, and it just didn't seem like who she was as a person. So I was very shocked by that. But now looking back on it, I don't think that I should have been. And I'm not sure if he was either, because certainly he knew, like, the conversations they had when the cameras weren't there, or the conversations that were cut from the show. And he certainly knew about sort of their level of intimacy behind the scenes. So maybe it didn't come as a total shock to him, but I, for one, was thrown. And then we get to Lauren and Cameron, my favorite. I thought that their ceremony space looked lovely as well. She looked very pretty. I think she was the only one that wasn't wearing a veil, but she had like a thing in her hair. She looked very pretty. Cameron looked very dapper, and we get to the ceremony, and there were no surprises with them. They both said yes, both got married, and it was awesome. I've been team Cameron and Lauren since the very first episode of the show. And then we get to Mark and Jessica, the final couple. And there were nerves there. He looks very nervous at the altar. I thought it was interesting. She was the only woman who was not escorted down the aisle by anyone. So that sort of gave me pause. She, like, they show them sort of behind the scenes getting ready. She looked very pretty. I liked her dress. I think I liked her dress the best. She looked very, very pretty, and she's like getting ready for the ceremony and like getting her hair and makeup done and all of that. And she seems to be in a really good headspace, but it did give me pause when they're showing her, pulling up to the ceremony space, and she was all by herself. So we see him sort of nervously waiting at the altar. All of his family is there. Friends are there and whatnot. She walks down the aisle by herself. The officiant asks Mark if he wants to marry Jessica, and of course he says yes with all the love in his eyes. And then the officiant asks Jessica, and she says no. And I don't think any of us are shocked by that. Mark was devastated, and I think, like, I feel for Mark, because I know that he really, really wanted this. But I also feel like he dodged a bullet. I think Jessica was very unfair throughout this whole show. And I have like avoided reading things about the show or watching other reviews about the show because I know that there have been some updates to their stories and whatever, but I really wanted to feel what I felt without having it like color my judgment of that moment. And I think she behaved unfairly. And I think, I think that he was a rebound. I think that when Barnett chose Amber, Jessica spun out for all intents and purposes. I don't think for a minute that she didn't think that Barnett was going to pick her, and all her cries of him playing mind games and him being a fuckboy and playing with people's emotions, that's exactly what she did to Mark. The only difference is I do think that Barnett felt a connection to more than one woman initially. But I think that when he decided to go with Amber, he was all in for Amber. I think that Jessica chose Mark as a rebound. I think that she loved the fact that he was much more into her than she was into him. That he was a rebound. I think that she didn't want to be embarrassed. And so, I think that she knew all along that she was not going to marry him. And instead of telling him and walking away, she strung him along. And I just don't like her for that. Because in the end, it seemed very manipulative. And I don't like people who do things like that. So yeah, Mark is devastated and, with his parents, and, Jessica's like, well, it is what it is. Essentially, it was all for the best. Like, but yeah, I think she knew from the minute that they left the island that she had no intentions of marrying that man ever. I think that she wants a certain kind of life, and Mark is not there yet because he's 24 years old. And I don't think that she could ever be on board with, like we had seen Gigi and Damien, and Gigi was telling Damien that, they could work, essentially that they could work together to build the kind of life that they wanted to have. I don't think Jessica's not about that life. Like, she wanted what she wanted, and I think she knew that Mark was not capable of giving her what she wanted from the get-go. Not because he didn't want to, but because he's 24 years old. And I don't like what she did to him at all. So today is Thursday. They released a new episode. It is sort of the reunion. I have not had a chance to watch it yet. But I am going to watch that. I will post a video of my reactions to the reunion and the sort of where are they now next. So I hope that you will keep watching. So let me know in the comments, were you shocked by anything? Did it play out exactly as you thought it would? Let me know what you think down below. Which couples do you think are still together? Do you think the ones that got married, do you think that they're all still together? Do you think maybe Gigi and Damien connected outside of the show and are back together? I think that's a very real possibility, actually. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and I will see you next time. Oh, subscribe too. Yeah, subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.